Christmas movies have existed since the start of cinema. Every year, there is always a new Christmas-themed cinema release. Most people choose a Christmas movie and then just watch it every single year. A tradition in many households, whether it's Elf, Jingle All the Way, Die Hard, or even a classic like It's a Wonderful Life. Everyone has that one movie. Now, many people will argue what the best Christmas movie is, but I can guarantee most folks will look to one movie in particular, and that is Home Alone. Now, over the last 35 years, we have had a total of 6 Home Alone movies in the franchise. And the best way to describe the quality of these movies as we go through is like a car driving off a cliff. So I decided to torture myself already and watch all 6 Home Alone movies, and we're going to dive into them to understand the franchise. And of course, there's only one place to start, with the first film, I guess. Released in 1990, Home Alone is a classic. It's directed by Chris Columbus, you know, that guy who discovered America or something? And it was written and produced by John Hughes. Now, I love John Hughes. The guy's made some absolute gems. The Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and Uncle Buck, which was Macaulay Culkin's unofficial audition to the Home Alone movies. John Hughes has a lot of top tier movies of my childhood. Now, Hughes got the idea for the movie from a chaotic start to his family holiday to Europe in 1989. On the return, John Hughes took this idea and added, what if one of the kids had been accidentally left behind? And he wrote the first draft of Home Alone in just 9 days. Now, Home Alone quickly became a holiday favourite, and is now considered one of the most iconic Christmas films of all time. It stars Macaulay Culkin as Kevin McAllister, alongside a really good cast, including Joe Pesci, Daniel Stern, Catherine O'Hara, and John Head. Wait, that's the guy from The Sopranos. The film's story revolves around the McAllister family, who are preparing to go to a trip to Paris. Kevin, the youngest member of the family, feels neglected and misunderstood. And after a dispute with his older brother Buzz, which, by the way, Buzz is just an asshole, why does everybody treat him like he's made out of gold? He is funny in the 1993 Dennis movie though. Kevin is punished and sent to sleep in the attic after a fight with Buzz. In a moment of anger, he wishes that his family would just disappear. Now, I've never understood Christmas holidays. Isn't it just easier to go when the chaos of Christmas has died down? Like, I for one wouldn't want to spend Christmas Day on the beach in Hawaii. It needs to be cold, goddammit. The next morning, the McAllisters oversleep and rush to the airport in a frenzy, and they accidentally leave Kevin behind. When he wakes up and realises that his family is gone, he initially believes that his Christmas wish has come true, and Kevin experiences a sense of freedom and excitement. He eats whatever he wants, he watches violent movies, he dives around on his parents' bed, but however, his joy is soon overshadowed by the threat of 2 burglars, Harry and Marv, of course played by Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern, who plan to rob the McAllister home. Kevin's resourcefulness becomes the heart of these movies, as he sets up a bunch of traps to protect his house. The burglars expect an easy job and find themselves in a slapstick nightmare of falling irons, flaming door handles, and swinging paint cans. Also, Marv's reaction to the spider is literally me when I see a spider. That thing is huge. Meanwhile, Kevin's mother, Kate, desperately tries to return home, facing a series of travelling mishaps, and she has to rely on the kindness of strangers, including a travelling musician played by John Candy. In the film's climax, Kevin does successfully defend his home, and of course, Kate then gets back home on Christmas morning. Now, one thing that I need to point out is, Kevin's mum travels hours and hours to get back home instead of waiting for the Friday flight, but she gets home like 2 minutes before everyone else. Why didn't she just wait for the flight? It changed nothing. Home Alone is definitely a story about growing up and realising what truly matters. Of course, Kevin begins the film as a frustrated, overlooked kid, just surrounded by an absolutely chaotic family, who don't really take him seriously at all. And when he wakes up to find the house empty, his wish for solitude comes true, which tests Kevin, as he's forced to confront his fear and responsibility. And it really feels like Kevin at the beginning of the movie and Kevin at the end of the movie are 2 different characters. And the film also circles back over to the idea that independence means absolutely nothing without your family connection. This is on display no more than the scene where Kevin and Old Man Marley finally connect with one another, Both characters must bridge distance and rediscover the warmth of belonging through their parallel stories of their family. Home Alone definitely argues that the real gift of this season is love and forgiveness. Old Man Marley tells Kevin not to be scared of him, which I have to point something out. Multiple times in this movie, we just see him death stare Kevin instead of, smiling to comfort him. If I saw him looking at me like that, I'd be shit scared too. The McAllister house itself carries a lot of weight too. It seems like Kevin's prison, but by the end, it's almost like his fortress. Also, what the hell did Kevin's parents do for, jobs? Look at that house, how did they afford that place? Macaulay Culkin's performance is a classic. I find Kevin to be hilarious in this movie. His sarcastic, witty comebacks are some of the best I've seen in a child actor. As a kid, I really wanted to be Kevin myself, and I set up silly traps around the house for my dad. Like a paper cup of water on top of the door. Not exactly a paint can, but that's probably attempted murder. Harry and Marv, the Wet Bandits, are some of my favourite movie villains. They're just symbols of adult incompetence. Their slapstick injuries and just them failing is what makes this film so funny. I think I've seen this movie more than any other movie, and I still laugh like an idiot at their misfortunes. Which I just lied, because I realised as a kid I constantly binge watched Look Who's Talking. I don't quite know why I watched that film so much as a child. It's about having a baby. What the fuck was wrong with me? One thing I find interesting is Joe Pesci wasn't even the first choice to play the leader of the Wet Bandits. The role of Harry was originally offered to, of course, Joe Pesci's friend and fellow Scorsese collaborator Robert De Niro, which, after he turned it down, Pesci stepped up and was completely perfect for the role. Catherine O'Hara playing Kevin's mother Kate definitely adds to the seriousness of the movie. She is full of guilt and determination to return home, and in his brief appearance, John Candy playing Gus Polinski definitely reminds us of the spontaneous kindness that comes with Christmas. Well, it used to. The reoccurring joke of the black and white noir classic that Kevin uses to scare both the pizza guy and Marv looks like a genuine movie, but it was actually created purely for Home Alone. Johnny, the guy who we see with the Tommy gun, was a local Chicago actor called Ralph Foodie, who you can get a glimpse of in Kelly Sue and the Blues Brothers. What I love the most about Home Alone is visually, it captures everything that I love about Christmas. The warm glow of the lights against the snow, the cozy house interior, and just a sense of safety and nostalgia. Julia Macat's cinematography turns just a normal house into a place of wonder and nostalgia. Every frame feels deliberately comforting, even when the chaos erupts. John Williams' score does what all great film music should do. It deepens the immersion without drawing attention to itself. His composition of the song, Somewhere in My Memory, has become almost inseparable from the film's identity. It carries both magic and melancholy, even if that goddamn kazoo cover is just burned into my brain. When Home Alone hit the theatres in 1990, it was a box office hit and became a touchstone of the holiday season. Its lines, its soundtrack, and even the traps became part of the shared language of the Christmas pop culture season. And it goes without saying that a sequel was obviously coming after that success. And in 1992, we got Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Following the commercial and critical success of Home Alone in 1990, 20th Century Fox commissioned a sequel pretty much immediately. The first film had been made on a modest budget of around $18 million, but earned over $470 million worldwide, which is $1.1 billion by today's standards, making it one of the most highest grossing comedies of all time at that point. Given this, both the studio and the filmmakers were definitely eager to replicate the formula. Chris Columbus returned as a director, with John Hughes again writing and producing under his Hughes Entertainment banner. Macaulay Culkin had become an international star after the first film, and he reprised his role as Kevin McAllister. Now the rest of the main cast also returned. Catherine O'Hara, John Hurd, Devin Rattray, Joe Pesci, and Daniel Stern, but this time we also got the addition of Tim Curry and Rob Schneider joining the cast as the employees at the Plaza Hotel. The filming took place between December 1991 and May 1992, and principal photography occurred primarily in Chicago and New York City. The scenes set at the McAllister home were shot in the same house used for the first movie, which is located in Illinois, but this film just felt bigger. The New York locations in this movie include Central Park, the Plaza Hotel, the Rockefeller Center, and even the World Trade Center, which was actually removed from the movie for a little while after the events of September 11th. Now this film's budget was substantially higher than the first, estimated at around $28 million. Much of the additional cost came from filming in New York, obviously. The actors now had higher salaries due to the first movie, and definitely the inclusion of more elaborate stunt work. The plot of the movie takes place 1 year after the events of the original film. The McAllister family plan another Christmas vacation, but this time to Florida. Did they learn nothing the year before? Now in the first movie, chaos ensues during the family's departure, but this time, Kevin is not forgotten about, and we get a spicy little switch on the story. Now Kevin accidentally boards a different flight, thinking he was following his dad after looking away to find battery, which it turns out not to be his dad obviously, and he gets the flight to New York City while the rest of his family flies to Miami. Also, damn airport security in this movie. He just goes, yeah, my dad's over there, and she's like, yeah, okay, have fun. Like, what the fuck, that was easy. Upon arriving in New York, Kevin uses his father's credit card to check into the Plaza Hotel, where he enjoys the luxury living. Tim Curry is definitely the star in this movie as the hotel worker. He is absolutely hilarious, especially this scene where Kevin once again uses a fake movie to scare the adults around him. Meanwhile, Harry and Marv have escaped from prison and are hiding in New York, planning a robbery at a toy store named Duncan's Toy Chest on Christmas Eve, which is based on the F.A.O. Schwartz toy store in Manhattan, and they now go by the Sticky Bandits instead. Kevin discovers their plan and sets out to stop them. He befriends a homeless woman who cares for pigeons in Central Park, a character known as Pigeon Lady, who was played by Piers Morgan. Brenda Fricker. The climax of the film takes place in an abandoned house under renovation, which belongs to Kevin's uncle. Kevin once again sets up a series of traps to get Harry and Marv. This time, the traps are way more violent, such as, caving Marv's skull in with a brick, or even electrocuting Marv to death. And how could we forget Harry literally exploding in the toilet? Which Joe Pesci stated, in addition to the expected bumps and bruises, and general pains that you would expect with that type of acting, he did sustain serious burns to the top of his head during the scene where Harry's hat is set on fire. Eventually, with the help from the Pigeon Lady and the police, the Sticky Bandits are captured once again, and Kevin's mum finds him at the Christmas tree at the Rockefeller Center, and they reunite. Kevin also earlier in the movie is rewarded with 2 turtle doves by Duncan himself, which he gives to the Pigeon Lady, continuing the theme of friendship throughout these movies. Now Home Alone 2 combines slapstick comedy of course with sentimental elements like the first movie. The film reuses many of the same structural beats, the family's conflict, Kevin's solo adventure, the confrontation with the criminals, and of course the resolution. However, it introduces a completely new setting of New York City, and it expands the story's scope and gives it a new unexplored identity. The scene where Kevin is walking around New York at night and that terrifying guy in the taxi just makes Kevin feel like he's in even more danger and he's even smaller than he was in the first movie. The film still explores loneliness and kindness among strangers, especially Kevin's relationship with the Pigeon Lady, which definitely parallels his friendship with Old Man Marley in the first movie. Cinematography once again was handled by Julia Macaulay, who also of course shot the first film. This film is just shot with emphasizing the Christmas atmosphere. You really feel like the craziness of the New York, of course, like at Christmas time it feels crazy, and a lot of scenes were shot at very noticeable and recognizable New York landmarks, which definitely became the film's most memorable features. The score was once again composed by John Williams, who returned, and his music again blends traditional orchestral arrangements with Christmas themes, which John Williams' score earned a nomination for Best Original Song at the Academy Awards, but it didn't win. Editing was done by Raja Gosnell, who had also worked on the original film, Everybody Came Back. The pacing maintains a balance between comedic timing and of course the emotional beats. Though some critics noted that the sequel's longer runtime of around 2 hours compared to the film's 103-minute runtime, makes it feel extended, that's what they said, which it doesn't, it's like 15 more minutes, like really? Now upon its release, Home Alone 2 Lost in New York received mixed reviews from critics, but it performed really strongly at the box office. Now many reviewers pointed out that the film closely followed the structure of the first installment. Roger Ebert, for instance, described it as an example of pure repetition. Which, what does he know? He likes movies like Citizen Kane that are boring. Give me Harry and the Hendersons any day. I for one believe that this movie is better than the first. I just love the Christmas in New York. It's the perfect setting. The movie feels so much larger and full of life than the first. But that's like comparing gold to more gold, they're still great. The film was a commercial success. It grossed $359 million worldwide. It didn't surpass the original, but it definitely solidified Home Alone as a major family film franchise. The scenes set in New York have become iconic, especially Kevin's stay at the Plaza Hotel and his visit to the Rockefeller Center. The film also features a brief cameo by Donald Trump, who actually owned the Plaza Hotel at this time. His appearance has become a frequent talking point in later years, since he's the president. The sequel contributed to the ongoing popularity of Home Alone, and many people point to it as a huge influence for later comedies throughout the 90s. Although later Home Alone sequels without the original cast were obviously less successful, Home Alone 2 is generally considered the last film in the series to capture the tone and charm of the original. Which brings us to the third installment, Home Alone 3. Now, I need to get controversy out of the way first.
I love Home Alone 3.
Nobody can make me hate this movie. Home Alone 3 came out in 1997, and it was still produced by John Hughes, but this time we had major changes. Unlike the first two films, which starred Macaulay Culkin as Kevin, Home Alone 3 introduced a new main character, named Alex, played by Alex D. Linz, who also voiced Hey Arnold for 2 episodes in season 5, which is a random number to do. This movie was directed by Raja Gosnell, taking on the director's role. He also directed Scooby-Doo 2: Monsters Unleashed, the peak of cinema. The story is set in Chicago just like the first 2 movies, but it takes place in a different neighbourhood with a different family. Alex is an 8-year-old who lives with his parents and older siblings, including a young Scarlett Johansson. Hey, we have to start somewhere, I guess. Early in the movie, Alex gets the chickenpox, which keeps him home from school. While he's home alone, he discovers that his neighbourhood has become a target for a group of international criminals. Now, these thieves are not just ordinary burglars. They are spies trying to recover a top secret computer chip which is hidden inside a remote controlled car. Trying to explain this movie just makes me sound insane that I actually like it. Now, the criminals accidentally lose the chip at an airport when their luggage gets mixed up. The toy car ends up being taken home by Alex's neighbour, Mrs. Hess, who gives the car to Alex as a thank you gift for shoveling her driveway. Once the criminals realise the car is missing, they track it down to Alex's street, leading to the main conflict of the movie. The movie is interesting as there are 4 burglars this time, including that weird plant guy from Twin Peaks. Oh yeah, and also Cyndi Lauper's husband. Because Alex is homesick, he notices strange things happening in the neighbourhood. He uses his telescope, walkie-talkies and his own clever tricks to figure out what's going on. Now, Alex has a boy who cried wolf mentality. He calls the police twice on 2 separate occasions, but no one believes him, not even his parents or his older siblings. That's when Alex decides to take matters into his own hand. This part of the movie feels similar to the original Home Alone films, where the child sets up traps to stop the bad guys. As a kid, I was amazed by Alex using a camera on top of his toy car and then just seeing it on his TV like he was playing a video game, but outside his house. I was easily amused. Now, Alex's traps are creative and make use of everyday household items, like glue, paint, fireworks, and just electricity. Now, the difference between this movie and the earlier ones is that Alex is not just defending his house from burglars, he's actually stopping a group of trained criminals. The traps he builds are more complex and more dangerous, which adds a bit more tension to the action scene. The traps are beyond cartoony in this movie. The electric shock wire is straight out of a Looney Tunes movie, and of course the classic nutshot moment.
Ellis? You smacked my winky.
Even though Home Alone 3 keeps the same basic ideas, a kid left alone defending his home, it has a completely different turn. It feels a little more modern, considering it's in the late 90s, with technology playing a bigger role in the story. The villains use gadgets, the government gets involved, and the plot has a spy movie feel to it. Also, I love the parrot in this movie. I find myself quoting that damn bird all the time, especially his famous quote.
What's on your mind, monkey butt?
Also as well, for the past 20 years, the theme song for this has just been burned into my brain forever. Now, when this movie was released, Home Alone 3 did not do as well as the first two films. Many fans missed the original characters, especially Kevin and the rest of his family, which is completely valid by the way, but I do really like Alex. He is a sweet kid who's trying to do the right thing, and his pet rat Doris is absolutely adorable. Now, critics were also mixed on it as well. Some said it was entertaining for younger audiences, but it didn't have the same charm or humour as the earlier movies. Despite the mixed reviews, Home Alone 3 definitely found an audience among kids who grew up watching it on TV, or the DVD box set that had all 4 movies in it as a kid. Nostalgia really takes over me when I watch this movie, so if you hate it, that's completely valid. The movie's traps and the funny moments still capture the same kind of fun that made the other 2 films so popular. It's worth noting that this was the first Home Alone movie to be rated PG-13, and it's also the only Home Alone movie to be not set at Christmas too. At the end of the day, Home Alone 3 stands out because it tried something new, whilst keeping the same spirit of the series. It's definitely not a copy of the first 2 movies. It has its own story, its own villains, and a new kind of hero. Alex is not as famous as Kevin, but his cleverness and bravery made him just as memorable in my opinion. I think the reason why I like this movie is because it wasn't afraid to be different. It had its own unique place in the franchise, and it was pushing itself to try something new. But unfortunately, I can't say the same for the 4th movie. Oh boy, Home Alone 4, this is where the series really starts to fall off in my opinion. Home Alone 4 came out in 2002 as a made-for-TV movie that aired on ABC. It was directed by Rod Daniel, who was known for directing family comedies like Beethoven's Second and Canaan. Yeah, remember that? The movie was written by Deborah Frank and Steve Hayes, who tried to bring the Home Alone franchise back to its roots after Home Alone 3 introduced us to an entirely new family. However, instead of continuing the timeline naturally, the filmmakers made the unusual choice to reuse characters from the original movies, like Kevin McAllister, his parents, and the burglar Marv, but with new actors and a completely different setup. Now, one of my pet peeves about this movie is the return of Marv. This is Marv in Home Alone 1 and 2. This is Harry in Home Alone 1 and 2. Now, this is Marv in Home Alone 4. They literally couldn't have made him look any more like Harry, even if they tried. It's like they meant it to be Harry, but they just forgot his name. This decision was one of the main reasons the movie confused many fans. It used familiar names, but ignored the events, personalities, and logic from the earlier films. Even though Kevin McAllister had already been around 10 years old in Home Alone 2, he is suddenly back to being a younger kid again in Home Alone 4, as if the early events never happened. Still, the filmmakers hoped that bringing back recognisable names would draw in audiences who loved the first 2 movies. Now, the story begins in Chicago once again, focusing on the McAllister family. This time, Kevin is living with his mum Kay after his parents have separated. His dad, Peter McAllister, has moved out and is now dating a wealthy woman named Natalie. Unlike the cozy suburban home from the earlier movies, Natalie lives in a massive high-tech mansion filled with smart gadgets, security systems, and her own personal staff. Kevin feels sad and frustrated by his parents' separation. He misses the way things used to be when his family was together. Early in the movie, he argues with his siblings, and he feels like no one really listens to him. Never seen that before, have we? His dad invites him to spend Christmas at Natalie's house, and Kevin gets excited. He thinks it might be a chance to have a fun holiday, and maybe even see his parents get back together. Once Kevin arrives at the mansion, he is amazed by all the technology. The house has automatic doors, voice-activated lights, and a personal butler named Prescott, and a housekeeper named Molly. At first it seems like a dream come true, a fancy home with lots of food, all the attention he could want, but Kevin starts to notice that something feels off. Prescott, the butler, is very serious and quiet, and Natalie seems more interested in impressing Peter than actually celebrating Christmas. It's not long until Kevin learns that his old enemy Marv is back. Now in this version, Marv is played by French Stewart, who replaced Daniel Stern from the original movies. However, the character is quite different. He's less funny, he's less threatening, and has a completely new look and attitude. and he has his wife now beside him, Vera. Together they plan to kidnap a young royal prince who is visiting the United States and will be staying at Natalie's house for Christmas. A royal prince? Are we even trying anymore? This new story involving a royal child and an international kidnapping makes Home Alone 4 feel completely detached from the rest of the series. Now, instead of the simple burglars breaking into a family home, it now includes a much larger, complicated plan. It may have sounded more creative on paper, but in the movie it often feels really over the top, and well, shit. The villains sneak into the house by disguising themselves as caterers. They want to get their hands on the prince and hold him for ransom. Kevin once again becomes the only one who realises what's going on, just like in the first 3 movies. No one believes him at first, not his dad, not Natalie, and not even the house staff. When Kevin realises that Marv and Vera are breaking in, he once again sets up traps around the house. Now, this is usually the part of the Home Alone movies that the fans always look forward to the most, but in Home Alone 4, the traps are just really simple and less imaginative. In the earlier movies, Kevin's traps were clever and funny, but in Home Alone 4, many of the traps just rely on the mansion's built-in technology, like the automatic doors, the voice systems, and the shower for some reason. Now, the traps still cause slapstick pain and embarrassment for the villains, but they don't have the same creativity or the energy that made the earlier movies iconic. Now, another big difference is the tone of the movies. I've mentioned before that the first 2 Home Alone movies feel like they balance a lot of humour with heart, and the lesson is always revolved around family. In Home Alone 4, the emotional parts just feel forced. The story focuses heavily on divorce and the idea of Kevin wanting his parents to get back together, but the movie doesn't spend enough time developing that relationship in a believable way. The high-tech setting is silly. Kevin just runs into his room and has got 100 TVs, so I guess Kevin is technically the first iPad kid. They try so hard to make everything feel bigger than it is, especially when Marv and Vera get captured, but all they do is just fall from a chandelier. Now, when it aired on TV, it received mostly negative reviews. Fans criticised the casting change, the confusing storyline, and definitely the lack of originality. On IMDb, it does hold the lowest rating in the Home Alone franchise. One of the most common complaints was that the movie just didn't respect the continuity of the series. It used the same characters' names, but changed their personalities, ages, and situations. Marv was no longer the same funny crook as before, and Kevin didn't seem like this clever kid who had once defended his house. I'm not gonna lie, the kid who plays Kevin in this movie is so damn annoying, and he's actually terrible in this movie. This movie felt really like a bad remake, rather than a true sequel. Of course, the production quality was also noticeably lower, but that makes sense, I guess, as it was a TV movie instead of a big theatrical release. Now, Home Alone 4 is definitely, in my opinion, where the series has died. I just don't think that this movie is good at all in any way. There's no real redeeming qualities in this film. It really shows as well that a lot of the charm came from John Hughes and Chris Columbus. I guess that this movie could be watched as a funny bad movie. It is so bad that it is kind of funny in places, I will give them that. At least Home Alone 4 is the end and has marked the death of this franchise, and that's the end of the video. Oh wait, there's 2 more. Oh boy, here we go. Home Alone 5, a movie I didn't even know existed until last week. Home Alone, The Holiday Heist, is the 5th installment, and similar to the 4th movie, it was made for TV. This film was released in 2012, and follows the Baxter family, who relocate from California to a seemingly haunted mansion in Maine. The movie begins with a shot straight out of The Shining. I have no idea why I thought that, it just looked like it. The protagonist is 10-year-old Finn Baxter, and he struggles socially, and he uses video games as an escape. Shortly after arriving at their new home, Finn becomes convinced the house is haunted, particularly by the ghost of a deceased gangster who was rumoured to have hidden a valuable painting somewhere inside. Just reading this, it's terrible. Now meanwhile, a group of art thieves, who is led by Sinclair, not that one, this one. It also features this guy who looks like a Temu version of Snoop Dogg. Now, the bad guys are plotting to infiltrate the Baxter home and steal that very painting. The film follows a very similar structure. Finn's parents are accidentally locked out during a winter storm, and his sister is trapped in the basement. With 3 thieves inside the house, Finn sets up improvised traps to protect his home and save his sister. The acting in this movie is like watching a Darman video. It is actually so bad. I found it incredibly hard to relate to any of these characters, man. One of the notable aspects of the holiday heist is its focus on modern childhood. Finn isn't just a clone of Kevin McAllister. Instead, he represents the new generation, kids who are obsessed with video games and digital media. Now, his social isolation stems from his reliance on video games, and this becomes the central point of his character arc. The early scenes highlight Finn's inability to connect with his peers or engage with surroundings without his digital media addiction. The whole video games are evil cliche is very much on display in this movie, and it is terrible. And once again, the plot forces Finn to step outside this comfort zone. As he constructs defences against the thieves, he begins to merge his digital problem-solving skills with the real world, using the video games as an inspiration for the traps that he is setting around the house. I really wish there was something different with these siblings, but there isn't. The film starts with Finn and Alexis hating one another, and by the end of the film, they learn to trust each other. I hate the sister so much in this movie. A whole I'm embarrassed by my parents arc it's just shit, man. It is so bad. Now, the thieves themselves are more comedic, which definitely is starting to happen with every movie. Over the years, these films went from the genuine menace of Harry and Marv to whatever the hell these are. Now, Sinclair, Jessica and Hugh are actually quite a funny trio. They do work very well with one another, but they're also lacking any real substance and feel like they're just there to be caught in the traps. The traps in this movie are some of the worst in the franchise. Apart from the spicy gingerbread man, there's nothing really much else in this movie. I feel like nothing really does happen in this movie, to be honest. The traps are the same as before, but we just get a little small spin to classify it as different. Now, like Home Alone 4, this was made for TV, and you can tell by the production. The cinematography, music and set design, they work, but they don't feel as polished. There's something just really off about this movie. The character of Finn has as much personality as a loaf of bread. Most of the characters feel incredibly forced, and it's hard to connect with any of them. Now, I feel like the holiday heist is definitely important in this franchise though. This movie came out years after Home Alone had already started to decline. Nobody wanted to see more Home Alone sequels. The film tries to refresh the formula without attempting to replace the original narrative, but instead of reinventing Home Alone, it just reinterprets it for a different audience. And yeah, that does sound good on paper, but it just kills this whole Home Alone vibe. There's just something about it. I think it's probably because, the guy in this movie gets swatted, and mobile phones are in this movie. Like, it's too modern. Home Alone doesn't feel like it should have iPhones in it. Overall, I would say that Home Alone Holiday Heist is the worst of the bunch. I really struggled to watch this film for an hour and a half. It's not even bad that it's good, it's just forgettable, and definitely not worth your time. And finally, we reached the most recent installment, Home Sweet Home Alone. Now, I was dreading this movie because the 5th installment was just so bad, but I guess I was pleasantly surprised, as I don't think this movie was as bad as that one, but it's still not very good. The film follows Max Mercer, the new kid in the series, but unlike the other kids in this movie, Max is
British?
Now, Max is accidentally left behind when his chaotic family departs for vacation, which we haven't seen that before. Now, the twist, at least in theory, is that the intruders aren't criminals. They are a financially struggling couple who believe that Max has stolen a valuable doll that could save them their home. The reversal is supposed to supply fresh emotional depth, but it actually creates the film's worst issue. The movie is never quite sure who we're supposed to root for. Max isn't funny or witty like Kevin, he's just an annoying spoilt little shit. He's not likeable at all. The original Home Alone worked because it was very simple. Kevin was defending himself from 2 grown men, whose activities range from anything from burglary to attempted murder. The violence is cartoonish, but the stakes felt real enough that the slapstick hits targets. In Home Sweet Home Alone, the dynamic is inverted. Pam and Jeff, the would-be intruders, are sympathetic. They're just stressed out adults simply trying to recover what they think is theirs. Meanwhile, Max unleashes traps that would send most people to the emergency room. What's meant to be funny becomes uncomfortable because the film hasn't earned that level of chaos. Max does offer some variety in these traps though, like the pool ball gun, and the Nerf gun, which has like thumbtacks in it, which is straight out of Saw. That's brutal, man. The VR trap I hate so much. What are we doing? This just feels like a joke that would be used in Peppa Pig or something. It is terrible, like he doesn't know where he is and thinks he's on the mountain. It's so stupid, man. The movie annoys me because there is just so much humour that just isn't funny. Especially this.
Hey, Bethany, is this a good time for a selfie in front of an Uber?
Hashtag ill-judged.
And the fact that the movie is self-aware, that it's a remake, doesn't make it acceptable. It's still crap. The slapstick in this movie just feels forced. Every fall, burn and bruise is offered with a strange apologetic energy in it, as if the film knows it's supposed to deliver the pain, but it doesn't want anyone to feel bad. It just feels like a comedy movie that's stuck in neutral. It's not going anywhere. Now, I will give the film some credit. Ellie Kemper and Rob Delaney, as the intruding couple, do actually bring genuine empathy and comedic timing to the roles that they have been given. Their subplot, which of course is fear of financial ruin in a too expensive suburb, has its moments grounded in sincerity and reality. A lot of people can relate to these two, which is quite rare in Home Alone. They always seem extremely well off. Archie Yates, who plays Max, is talented and he does have a natural charm to him, but he's given a character who feels more like a concept than a real kid. His arc is very thin, and it's overshadowed by the adult storyline, leaving him trapped in a movie that rarely makes space for him. I do like the return of Buzz. I did find that was cool, and this movie did feel like it was more loyal to the original Home Alones than the previous, I guess you could say, 3 really. It feels like it respects them, but at the same time offers nothing to the franchise. The film does feel like a seasonal TV special stretched into feature length. It aims for that Christmas warmth, but it rarely earns it. It relies on cameos, callbacks and familiar music cues to make you feel nostalgic rather than enjoy the actual movie. A lot of the original quotes used by Kevin are used by Max in this movie, and it doesn't add anything to it, it just makes you think, oh yeah, Kevin said that. All of these things sprinkled into this movie only highlight how little emotional grounding the film has on its own. I would suggest that you could give this film a watch. It's not good at all, but at the same time, it is quite a nice shout to the originals. So the Home Alone franchise is pretty simple. It starts off great, gets better, and then slowly declines into just rubbish. As I've watched all 6 Home Alone movies now, I decided I will rank them from worst to best, because why not? The worst is Home Alone 5 Holiday Heist. It is terrible. Then Home Alone 4, Home Alone Holiday Heist, Home Alone 3, Home Alone 1, and Home Alone 2 is the greatest out of all of these movies. If you disagree, let me know in the comments what your order is from worst to best. And that was the entire series of Home Alone movies, just about done. This video was so fun to make. It started off with just me enjoying nostalgic movies, but geez did it get hard towards the end with these modern remakes, man. They were bad. It also gave me some kind of like endurance to see how far I could go. Could I make it through all these movies? And surprisingly I did, so I was proud of myself. Thank you all for the support on this channel. The Adult Swim video just did so much better than I expected. Like, genuinely, I'm so grateful for that. It really did make such a huge impact, you guys supporting on that video. Of course, this is the last video of this year. Thank you, of course, for the support once again. This year, the first year I've had on YouTube, well, I guess you could say first, like 8 months or so, has been awesome. And I'm so excited to make some more videos in the new year. But until then, hope you all have a Merry Christmas and a good New Year, and I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers!
Cheers, Lord, strutting on their November. Jack Frost nipping at your nose. Your dark heroes being sung while we're show and frosted supply Eskimos. Everybody know our jockey earns some return.